and Shalom. All praises, glory, and honor be unto Yahweh Bashem Abishai. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS, who are the true leaders of all Israel on earth today. Salutations to my fellow Akim. All right, the confusion of face Akim that are joined unto our ranks that do this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so. All right, and to the Akwaf that are listening and learning, to the hopeful elect. To you I say Shalom once again. All praises, glory, and honor. Call halal, Yahweh Bashem Abishai, Bahashem Wakar Kadash. This video was put up by the brother Prince Shemaiah, and it's called Get Ready. Israel, the so-called white man Esau Amalek, is coming with wrath because he knows time is short, and it's true. And what they're doing and what this video is about black identity extremists, which have done nothing extreme except, complain about the crimes that are done to them and how there's no compensation, and how that they are a future threat to law enforcement for crimes or for acts of violence against unarmed black people. Well, they're telling you what the problem is. You keep shooting people down unarmed, murdering them in cold blood on video, and then walking away scot-free, because this is them controlling the narrative. They control the story, and they also want to control the outcome. What Esau would like is he would really love for one of these, for some so-called black group to actually retaliate, so that he'd have a reason to move forward. All right. But Esau, and the main reason he's coming against these groups is because these groups are exposing his wickedness, man, with their constant complaining and making people focus on things that Esau does not want you to focus on. And I'm going to give you an example. This is from the Winston Simplified Dictionary, 1933, encyclopedic edition. And this is the word apocalypse. All right. An apocalypse means to reveal. It says apocalyptian. It's from the Greek, and it says to cover. All right. Revelation, discovery, disclosure, apocalypse, the last book of the New Testament, called the Revelation of St. John the Divine, adjective, apocalyptic. All right. And so there it is, man. So I had some clown on a video try to say apocalypse meant something else. No, it means to reveal, revelation. That's what apocalyptic means. All right. It's the revealing, and the reason they looked at it the way from the eyes of the so-called white man, because it really does spell his end. Because the end of the so-called white race is found in all over the Bible, but in Revelation, that's the end game, the end of their power structure. That beast, which is NATO, American NATO, Babylon the Great, the land of confusion, which is America. That everyone drunk the wine. Everyone follows after America, dresses like Americans, follows American holidays. Okay? Let's go to the word apocrypha. And this is what it reads. It says, erroneously used. All right? Writings or statements of doubtful authorship. In early churches, writing uncertain as the origin of an authority, apocrypha, certain writings originally included in the Old Testament and still incorporated in the Vulgate, but now generally omitted in Protestant versions of the Bible. Protestants, there's no such thing as Protestant. That's another made up word, made up thing by the so-called white man. And the Apocrypha exposes them, and it names them by race, by name. And that's the real reason why the Apocrypha was removed. That was Esau Edom controlling the narrative. All right, anything that comes against the so-called white man, anything that exposes his lies, or challenges his fake and false history, he will come against and deem it, and especially now that he's in power, he'll just come against it. So when you listen to that definition, they told you everything you needed to know. They omitted it because it exposed them. It wasn't in their favor. The Apocrypha tells you that they took over the land of Greece, that wickedness came into the world through them, that they're not the real Grecians. And it also told you that they would put their images in the Bible and broadcast to the world that they were the Lord's chosen. That's exactly what we are today. And this right here, coming against the black identity, is yet another way of suppressing that very truth and upholding their lies. So let's let it play.
Black identity extremists. That's the label an internal report by the FBI's Counterterrorism Division is giving to black activists around the country. The report says they pose a growing threat of premeditated violence against law enforcement in response to police brutality.
Now that's what they want to happen, and that's basically just a fabricated lie, man. All right, and what they would like for that to happen. Because as he's going to let you know, which I've said it many a times before, I've done the research. The crimes that are done against police officers are done, over 71% is done by so-called white men. But yet they aren't the faces of crime here in America. Why? That's the controlling of the narrative. And they need the so-called white man to be looked at as a just individual when he's not. Because he does small crime and then he does huge crime. The so-called white man steals whole countries. All right, he gentrifies whole countries, man. Commits genocide as he's doing it. That's how he got into power. Then he set himself up to be the authority of law and education. And when he gets there, he lies and covers up everything. And then anyone who exposes it or brings it about or talked about are gotten rid of, or they're labeled as a kook, as they're crazy or something. All right, this is Sirach 34:4, of an unclean thing, what can be cleansed? All right, and that Esau's been deemed unclean, as certain foods have. All right, and from that thing which is false, what truth can come? What truth can come from the so-called white man? Said that he is born speaking lies, man. But let's let it play.
Former government officials and legal experts say no such movement exists, and this is an attempt by the FBI and the Donald Trump administration to find an equivalent threat to white supremacists and silence black activists.
Right. So they're trying to find an equivalent threat to white supremacists because Donald Trump and his kind are the real threat here in America and worldwide. All right. These so-called black identity groups have no power to really do anything outside of going outside and, walking back and forth down the street with signs and making a ruckus. Other than that, they're not really capable of doing anything. This is Psalms 55:11. Wickedness is in the midst thereof, deceit and guile depart not from her streets. All right. And that's all that you're going to hear in America and coming from the media of Esau Edom.
Is the article's co-author, Sharon Weinberger, Foreign Policy Magazine's executive editor for News. Sharon, here's what's interesting. Earlier this year, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't federal officials say white supremacists pose a greater threat to Americans than ISIS?
Yes, well, there was an FBI report that came out in May that we at Foreign Policy obtained and published later that said that there were more attacks in terms of the number of attacks by white supremacist groups than by any other extremist group in the United States. And
there it is. That's from the FBI itself. So how are you going to tie in so-called Black Lives Matter or the Black Panthers with that? Black Panthers has been around since the 60s, and to date, I still have not seen or heard of anything of them attacking and killing any group of people. All the things that I've seen and heard was them being attacked and killed. Because it's okay for white militias and hate groups to march and bear arms to protect themselves, but you couldn't have a group of so-called Negroes doing the same thing.
Including those linked to the Islamic State or what be it.
Wow, they kill more than ISIS, the so-called white man here in America.
The FBI observed. So, there have been elements within the FBI that were very concerned about white supremacists.
And what's interesting here is this is the FBI. First of all, show me the evidence. Show me the evidence where black identity extremists are leading these attacks against law enforcement when the reality is, And we've done the stories and the numbers. Law enforcement they've been killed by more white folks than anybody else in America.
Well, not only law enforcement, but white people in general. You watch the local news, especially in Chicago and big cities and such, you're always going to see a brown face, be it a light brown or dark brown, you're always going to see that face plastered across the screen as the bad guy. But the truth of the matter is that across the board in America, 86% of the crime that's done to white citizens is done by other so-called white citizens. That is another FBI. That's a fact. All right. But that's not what's broadcast. That also doesn't show in their prison and in their jail systems either. All right. Because the so-called white male is protected here in America. And he has to be the face of what's good and what's righteous. And the truth of the matter is, here's the face is what is most wicked in all of the earth.
Exactly. I mean, when we took this report to, some dozen people, to include former DHS and former FBI people, we honestly expected a couple former government people to be like, oh, well, actually, that's not so crazy. It's a continuation of this report or that report. And everyone looked at that terminology, every single person we spoke with. And even though there were variations of opinion, everyone said that's shocking. There's simply no such thing as a black identity extremist movement. It would be like linking militias and white supremacists and the guy in Las Vegas and calling them white identity extremists. It makes no sense. It has no basis in reality. And frankly, it's racist.
This report,
like she said, it's false and it's completely and totally racist, man. All right. This is Job 20, and I'm going to start at verse 5. And it says, the triumph of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite is but for a moment. All right. So his time is ending. That's why they're getting so more aggressive with their lies and coming against anyone who speaks against them, And when you speak and talk about these things, even though you come with facts, information, it'll get labeled as conspiracy. They love that word. Well, now they're doing the reverse. They've been the makers of fake news, and now anyone that challenges them, now the fake news is screaming fake news. It's crazy.
Sounds eerily familiar to what J. Edgar Hoover did by using wiretaps and doing so, approved by Robert Kennedy, approved by President Lyndon Baines Johnson and others, when they targeted Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., when they wiretapped his hotel rooms, when they wiretapped his friends' phones, when they went after the Black Panthers, when they went after the Deacons of Defense. I can go down the line and list the various organizations that the FBI targeted. This is, again, following the footsteps of J. Edgar Hoover.
I think that is it. When we interviewed particularly academics who had looked at years of FBI surveillance of African American activists, of writers in the 1960s and 1970s, what they said was so similar was that the FBI, very deep in the FBI's DNA, was this belief that activism, radicalism, was somehow linked to a violent ideology. So maybe.
And see what that comes down to, man, is that they know the prophecies and they're afraid of the awakening of the Israelites and Judah rising up, because they know when Judah rises up, their time is up, man. Let me get one more scripture, man. This is Job 20 and 22. In the fullness of his sufficiency, he shall be in straits. Every hand of the wicked shall come upon him. And when he is about to fill his belly, power shall cast the fury of his wrath upon him, and shall rain it upon him while he is eating. So just as he is about to enjoy everything that he stole and murdered, raped, and robbed, the Most High is going to come down upon him and destroy him. So with that, all praises, glory, and honor be unto you. How about Shem Shai and Abad Babal.